Do you feel the pressure? That crushing, dead stop weight when you try to move something massive, yet you have no leverage. They told you wealth was a game of strategy, of brilliance, of market timing. They lied. The truth is far more agonizing. It begins in the dark, in the agonizing stillness where nothing seems to move, where every dollar saved feels like a trivial grain of sand. You are told to plant seeds, but you see no shade, no fruit, only dirt. This opening phase, this brutal initiation into financial reality, is what separates the pretenders from the owners. If you fail this first test, this soul-crushing effort to move the immovable, the game ends before it even starts. You are about to learn why the first threshold is sheer, miserable hell, and why crossing it demands a sacrifice of self most people will never make. My name is Elias Thorne, and I was born in 1924, precisely as the clouds of the Great Contraction were gathering over the land. My childhood was a masterclass in fragility. It was an education not taught in universities, but etched into the faces of men who had lost everything. My own grandfather was ruined, and my father, a lawyer, watched his clients disappear because the entire country was flat broke. I saw financial weakness manifest, and it looked like desperation, the cold dread that strips a family of its dignity. I decided early that I would rather go through life armed with capital than without it. The dream everyone chases, the millions, the freedom, the legacy, is meaningless until you conquer the first barrier, that initial $100,000. I will call it what it is, the son of a bitch. You are not in the game. You are merely pretending until you cross that mark. Why is it so profoundly difficult? Because when you start with nothing, nothing compounds to nothing. It is like trying to push a heavy boulder from a dead stop. You exert immense effort, backbreaking work, and the rock barely trembles. Once that boulder is rolling, momentum takes over. But the beginning feels utterly impossible. When you are young, discipline feels utterly pointless. You save 1,000 sovereigns, and a year later, the return is 20 sovereigns. The mathematics of small numbers whispers that the effort is useless. This is precisely where 99% of people quit. They choose the immediate, tangible reward, the toy today, rather than planting the seed for tomorrow. They see their neighbor buy a shiny new roadster on credit and feel compelled to copy the foolish behavior. To achieve that first $100,000, you must behave in ways that defy popular opinion. You must save when the act feels pointless, and you must invest when the returns look trivial. But the structure of the financial universe is designed to reward this early, painful suffering. Once you cross the 100,000 sovereign mark, the entire dynamic shifts. 10% on 100,000 is 10,000. Suddenly, the returns are visible. Suddenly, the effort is justified. Most people never reach this point because they are afflicted by the dual diseases of impatience and stupidity. They seek shortcuts, gamble wildly, and confuse speculation with sound strategy. Let me be blunt. Making the first $100,000 is like digging through wet cement with a spoon, miserable, slow, and backbreaking. Achieving the next 100,000, however, is like slicing through butter with a hot knife. The texture of reality changes. The irony, the painful, exquisite irony, is that the very habits required to reach the first milestone are the habits that sustain true wealth. Lie below your means. Save like the world is ending tomorrow, but invest as if prosperity is inevitable. Ignore the hyperactive idiots screaming advice. As I always said, nobody can help you if you don't save. No investment genius, no partner, no divine intervention can rescue the man who spends everything he earns. The secret is to be slightly less stupid than the average person. Don't envy. Don't overspend, don't borrow too much, and never chase hot tips. When I was a young solicitor in the city of Ethelgard, my earnings were modest, but my discipline was rigid. I lived simply, kept piling up my savings, and bought small stakes in businesses I understood. I refused to buy things designed to impress people I did not care about. The discipline forged in those lean, early years carried me the rest of my life. That initial capital, perhaps, does not make you rich, but it proves you possess discipline, the most valuable commodity there is. If you are young and struggling, you must save until the act hurts. You must look your laughing friends in the eye, the ones mocking your cheap habits, and know that you will outlast them. The compounding machine does not reward the cleverest. It rewards the stubborn. The paradox of wealth is that the beginning is unbearable, the middle is tolerable, and the end becomes inevitable. The willingness to suffer now to avoid suffering later is the ultimate financial question. If you wish to guarantee your misery, start comparing yourself to other people. This is envy, and it is the only sin where the perpetrator receives absolutely nothing beneficial in return. Gluttony grants temporary satisfaction. Greed might make you richer, but envy only makes you feel miserable that someone else has more. It is equivalent to setting yourself on fire to spite your neighbor. I watched envy destroy careers. I knew a brilliant solicitor, a man who worked harder than anyone, who simply could not tolerate that his peers were getting rich faster. Instead of sticking to his reliable practice, he jumped into every speculative deal and market craze, not trying to accumulate wealth, but trying desperately to beat the guy next to him. He lost his shirt. Envy blinds you, forcing you to chase things you neither want nor understand, playing games where you possess no advantage, and it ends, invariably, in destitution. My partner, Silas Vance, and I never wasted a minute envying others. We admired some, we learned from some, but we never envied. If a person has a vessel bigger than mine, good for him. I don't want the damn vessel anyway. The more you compare, the less you save, because envy is the primary engine of consumption. When your neighbor, let us call them the Aldens, acquire a new luxury carriage, suddenly your reliable old car feels insufficient. When a friend takes a trip to the sunken coast, you believe you deserve one too, and there goes your savings rate. People constantly ask me the secret to wealth. The answer is always the same. Stop trying to look rich. Stop trying to impress idiots. The world is full of fools spending money they haven't earned to show off to people they genuinely dislike. If you join them, do not whine when your balance sheet shows zero. The person who gets rich is the one who quietly piles up money while the Aldens drown in debt. If you save 10,000 sovereigns annually for a decade, you build a pile that can compound. If you waste 10,000 sovereigns annually trying to project an image of wealth, you acquire only memories and credit card balances. In Ethelgard, many individuals look like kings, living in grand houses and hosting lavish parties. I did not envy them because I knew most were highly leveraged. They appeared substantial until the tide receded, exposing them as paupers in expensive suits. Envy makes you stupid, but worse, it makes you fragile. You take foolish risks and build a house of cards, hoping to impress people who are not paying attention anyway. The cure is simple. Think like an owner, not a consumer. Kill envy. Save more. Hit that $100,000 threshold faster. I am not immune to stupidity. I have made plenty of mistakes. One of the largest was selling too early. Decades ago, I invested in a fine company. The business was robust, the economics were sound, and the leadership was honest. But when the stock price doubled, I allowed myself to feel clever, and I sold, patted myself on the back for locking in a profit. That company went on to multiply tenfold, perhaps 20-fold. That single act of impatience, that desire to clip the ticket and look momentarily smart, cost me tens of millions, perhaps far more. The majority believe the hard part of investing is the buying. It is not. The hard part is sitting. Sitting while nothing happens. Sitting while the world screams at you to be active. Sitting while everyone else jumps in and out. Silas Vance always insisted preferred holding period is forever. That is not poetic phrasing. It is pure practical rationality. If you find something truly excellent, why would you let go just because the price has gone up slightly? Selling a great business prematurely is like demanding a winner's prize halfway through the race. You lock in a minor profit, but you forfeit the real fortune. Most big mistakes are symmetrical. They either hold poor assets too long or sell great assets too soon. Both errors originate from the same flaw: impatience. I do not regret missing some wild speculation or skipping fads I did not understand. My regret lies solely in the moments when I owned something fundamentally good and was too eager to run. The average speculator buys at the peak, sells at the trough, and repeats the cycle until they are broke. Their attention span is shorter than a goldfish's. If you want to outperform 90% of investors, the secret is this: just sit. Sit on your capital. Sit on your investments. Sit on your hands. Do nothing most of the time. The world is congested with hyperactive fools attempting to outsmart one another. Do not join them. I once stated that the big money is not in the buying or the selling, but in the waiting. That was not a clever aphorism. It was a scar talking. Activity is the enemy. Stillness is your only reliable friend. If you feel the itch to sell merely because the price is higher than yesterday, you must pause. Ask yourself, has the underlying business changed, or is my brain merely seeking dopamine? The answer is almost always the latter. Ignoring that impulse will save you from the most expensive mistake of all, the one that leaves you comfortable but robs you of a fortune. The world is saturated with people who are absolutely certain about things they know nothing about. This is a default human condition, a poisonous blend of ignorance and overconfidence. I have witnessed intelligent individuals ruin themselves, not due to a lack of intellect, but due to an excessive conviction in lousy, unearned opinions. They cannot say the three simplest words: I don't know. When I was young, I believed smart people possessed all the answers. With age, I realize that genuinely intelligent people are those who confess ignorance immediately. The faster you can say, I don't know, the richer and wiser you are likely to become. Take investing. The average person reads a fleeting headline about the price of coal or a new technology or shifting rates, and suddenly they are an expert. They rush into aggressive trades with conviction they have not earned, and when the investment implodes, they are shocked. Do they truly expect the world to reward arrogance masquerading as insight? Silas Vance and I have been successful largely because we limit ourselves strictly to areas where we possess actual knowledge. If we do not understand it, we pass. We have ignored 99% of all apparent opportunities. People mistakenly perceive this as a weakness. It is, in fact, survival. You do not need universal knowledge. You only need to know when you know something and, crucially, when you do not. This simple humility is the only thing that keeps you out of the graveyard of overconfident fools. A great investor needs to do very few things correctly, provided he avoids the monumental errors. Most monumental errors spring from being too certain of one's own capabilities. This is why I preach the gospel of doubt. Years ago, a man presented me with a hot deal. He spoke with unwavering certainty, complete with charts, projections, and theatrical flourishes. I told him I failed to grasp the core economics. He looked at me with open pity, believing I was an idiot. A few years later, his entire enterprise collapsed, and he was ruined. Confidence is cheap. Anyone can fake it. Knowledge is expensive. It requires years of careful study, humility, and the scars of experience. Most people choose the cheap version and pay the ultimate price later. This phenomenon, known by some scholars as the Dunning-Kruger effect, I simply call not knowing that you are stupid. You protect yourself by constructing what I term a circle of competence. You do not need encyclopedic knowledge. You only need to know the precise boundaries of what you truly understand and refuse to step outside them. Many resent boundaries, believing them to be limiting, but in the realm of capital, limits are liberating. They keep you safe, preventing you from wandering into territories where the financial sharks feast on amateurs before breakfast. Ego is the enemy. People desire to look astute, to impress their peers, to predict the future like they own a crystal ball. This hunger for certainty is why financial media, like the Gilded Screen, exists. It feeds on overconfident opinions. If you cannot say "I don't know" at least 10 times a day, you're almost certainly deceiving yourself. If your portfolio is constructed on delusion, you will eventually be slaughtered. Silas Vance often remarked that we do not have to be more clever than the rest. We simply have to be more disciplined. Discipline requires sticking to your knowledge, ignoring the noise of the unknown, and admitting ignorance faster than anyone else. Humility strengthens you. It does not weaken you. Saying, "I don't know," costs nothing. Pretending you do, however, will cost you everything. Most individuals spend their entire working lives thinking like employees, which is why they never become truly wealthy. Careerism is the endemic disease of our age. They chase titles, climb corporate ladders, polish resumes, and live perpetually for the approval of clients, institutions, and bosses. Then they arrive at 65 and wonder why all they have to show for their effort is a pension and an engraved watch. I started that way. As a young solicitor in Ethelgard, I dutifully logged hours, collected my fees, and strived to impress the senior partners. Then the realization hit me. If I continued, I would achieve comfort, but never true wealth. I would be selling my limited time for money until I dropped. So I walked away. People thought I had lost my mind, questioning why I would abandon a stable path. I quit because stability is often an illusion, and being a careerist means perpetually dancing to someone else's tune. The enduring, real money originates from ownership. Owning equity, owning a business, owning assets that toil for you even while you are asleep. Silas Vance grasped this instinctively. He sought ownership, not a mere salary. That is why we focus on acquiring and building companies, not chasing internal promotions. Our organization, the Steadfast Guild, is not a collection of jobs. It is a machine we own. Careerists think about pleasing their immediate superior. Owners think in terms of building capital that compounds for decades. The questions are fundamentally different. Careerism feels safe. The stipend arrives routinely. The manager offers applause, but the long-term math is destructive. Bureaucracy caps your upside. Inflation devours your wages, and one corporate restructuring can erase years of perceived security overnight. Ownership, conversely, feels dangerous. You risk your own capital. There is no corporate safety net, and the full responsibility rests upon your shoulders. But the upside is limitless. You reap the benefits of compounding, build true independence, and cease begging for raises, instead making your own rules. Most people never transition. They cling to stability like a life raft tied to a sinking vessel. In my days of legal practice, the genuinely rich solicitors were not the ones who billed the most hours. They were the ones who took equity stakes in their clients' burgeoning businesses. The careerists slaved for fees. The owners collected fortunes. Ownership rewards you with compounding. Careerism rewards you with breadcrumbs. You do not necessarily have to launch a business. Most businesses fail, but everyone has a capacity to own something, a portion of a company, a piece of durable real estate, an asset that works without constant manual labor. The key is to stop thinking like a hired gun and start thinking like a capitalist. Ask yourself, am I building an asset, or am I merely selling my hours? If the latter, you are stuck. If the former, you are on the path to freedom. My experience during the Great Contraction taught me lessons about financial fragility that no academic book ever could. Money, stripped bare of glamour, is simply survival. When cash vanished, families crumbled. I saw men who had walked tall line up for bread. This period burned one rule into me permanently. Never be dependent on the kindness of governments, creditors, or strangers. When the financial tide goes out, no one is coming to save you. This led to the second vital lesson. Avoid debt like the plague. Debt has killed more individual fortunes than any stock market collapse. Families with no debt managed to survive the contraction. Families later with debt went entirely under. I saw this same disease repeat in the modern crisis of 2008. Debt is a noose. You may not feel it tightening initially, but it always does. Margin accounts, credit balances, short-term loans, they are all the same trap. If you need to use debt for your financial blueprint to work, then your plan fundamentally sucks. It is that simple. Silas Vance and I built the steadfast guild without the corrosive leverage Wall Street loves. That is why we sleep soundly at night. But financial failure is not only a matter of debt. It is often a cocktail of three poisons. I made a conscious choice to cut all three out early: debt, drama, and dumb people. Drama is a silent killer of compounding. You would be shocked by the number of otherwise brilliant people who ruin their lives by constantly chasing chaos. Foolish lawsuits, toxic partners, destructive marriages. They expend all their energy on self-manufactured soap operas instead of focusing on long-term capital accumulation. Life already provides enough real tragedy. I lost an eye. I buried a child. I had no appetite for volunteering for extra misery. Do not pick fights. Do not sue unless it is unavoidable. Do not waste time on individuals who drain your finite energy. The third poison is the most underrated. Dumb people. Who you choose to associate with determines 90% of your long-term outcomes. If you work for idiots, marry idiots, or invest alongside idiots, you will pay dearly. The world is full of people who are dishonest, unreliable, or simply incapable. If you cannot identify them, you will suffer with them. Silas and I had a rigid rule. We would only deal with people we trusted, admired, and genuinely liked. We passed on many incredibly lucrative opportunities solely because the people running them were clowns or jerks. Did this cost us money in the short term? Perhaps. But in the long run, it saved us from endless disaster and crippling headaches. Life becomes remarkably simpler when you simply refuse to mix with toxic individuals. Avoiding debt, drama, and dumb people has been more critical to my success than finding any genius investment. Even the most perfect investment will fail to save you if your personal life is a constant circus. The thorn prescription is simple. Do not borrow what you cannot immediately repay. Do not create problems you do not need. Do not associate with fools. If you manage these three things, you will automatically be ahead of 90% of humanity. You will gain the peace of mind necessary to allow compounding to work for you, rather than constantly fighting fires, because trouble, just like money, also compounds. Our partnership, mine and Silas Vance's, lasted over 6 decades. This was not the product of luck. It was design. First, we maintained complete, unreserved trust. If Silas gave me his word, I believed it, and vice versa, no fine print, no hidden agendas. That level of foundational trust is rare, and it saved us from a suspicion that ruins most business arrangements. Second, we were fundamentally complementary. Silas possessed a boundless optimism. I am inherently skeptical. He saw the opportunity. I automatically searched for the danger. Alone, we might have been good. Together, we were demonstrably better, balancing the temperaments required for survival. Third, we agreed entirely on principles. We both despised debt. We both valued immense patience. And we both believe in owning great enterprises for the long term. When your core principles align, you do not waste time arguing about tactics. We disagreed frequently, but we argued productively, focusing on logic, not ego. We made mistakes, of course. We were often too slow to act on certain companies, and our temperament led us to miss many opportunities in technology simply because we failed to understand them. But I accept that cost. It is far preferable to miss a few massive winners than to destroy your capital entirely. While fools envy the investor who bought the next great innovation in 1997, they forget the hundreds who were obliterated by the quick cash schemes of 1999. Our enduring partnership was based on shared values, not just profit. We like the same jokes, the same philosophies. If the only thing binding you to a partner is the pursuit of money, do not expect it to last. The key is simple: integrity. Without it, partnerships decay. With it, they endure. Our ultimate goal was not maximizing spectacular returns, but minimizing catastrophic mistakes. We did not need to be masterminds. We just needed to avoid being profoundly stupid together for a very long period of time. People desperately want a magic trick, a shortcut, a hack. There are none. The formula is so dull that most people refuse to engage with it. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference in something sound. Let compounding do its quiet work. Wait longer than everyone else. Do this consistently for 50 years, and you will appear to be a genius. But along the way, you will feel bored. You will feel like the world is leaving you behind. This intolerance for boredom is why most people fail. I did not become rich because I was smarter than every competitor. I became rich because I was more stubborn. I could endure decades of sitting, waiting, and ignoring the clamorous noise. When the numbers grew immense, I refused to let them alter my behavior. I lived simply. I drove modest carriages. I did not require an oversized vessel to feel successful. I required only peace of mind. The paradox is that you do not achieve wealth by acting rich. You achieve wealth by acting boring. You save when it is difficult. You avoid debt when it is tempting. You sit still when it is uncomfortable. Then, one day, people look up and ask how you accomplished it. I tell them, I didn't blow it. Avoid the huge mistakes, and the rest manages itself. You do not need to swing at every opportunity. You do not need to forecast the future. You merely need to survive, avoid self-inflicted wounds, and let compounding perform its destiny. If you want a formula for guaranteed misery, start spending more than you earn. No intelligence, no market tip. No guru can save you if the money leaves your pocket faster than it enters. That is arithmetic, not philosophy. You cannot compound what does not exist. The first $100,000 is challenging precisely because it forces you to master that fundamental principle, living below your means. If you cannot master that, the rest is irrelevant. We did not get rich by being flashy. We got rich by being obsessively consistent. We lived as people who respected subtraction, money in minus money out. That resulting gap, the savings, is the birthplace of compounding. Kill that gap, and you kill your future. It means you require neither luck nor genius, only the mastery of one boring principle. Spend less than you earn, year after year, without a single exception. Most people will complain about inflation or unfair systems, but discipline works even in unfair worlds. Focus on the basics. Save, invest, sit, repeat. It will not feel impressive at first. No one will celebrate when you put a few sovereigns aside instead of acquiring a new gadget. But one day, you will cross that initial $100,000 threshold, and you will suddenly understand. On that day, compounding ceases to be mere theory and becomes reality. The boulder is finally rolling downhill. You will realize the hardest element was never the math. It was the discipline. The first $100,000 is indeed hell, but it is the only true test. If you can get there, the rest follows. If you cannot, no market miracle, no financial guru will ever save you.